Life can change in a second. One minute I was 33, happily married and planning my future. The next minute I was a widow looking at cremation options because my husband's body was too damaged for an open casket. That's what happened to me, Brooke, 7 months ago. My husband Tyler died in a terrible car crash. Since then I've been drowning in sadness and trying to figure out how to live in this new painful life. The first few weeks felt like a dream. I was busy with funeral plans, getting so many calls and spending sleepless nights. If my parents hadn't taken over most of the funeral work, I don't know how I would have handled it. Brooke honey, we've arranged everything with the funeral home, my mom said softly, more gently than I'd ever heard her speak. You just focus on yourself right now, she said. A support group for people who lost their loved ones became my safe place. Every Friday evening I sat in a circle with others who understood the deep pain in my chest. Some days are harder than others, I said in one meeting, my voice so quiet. Sometimes I wake up and forget he's gone, just for a second. Rachel, who had lost her husband 3 years ago, gently held my hand. That's normal, sweetie, grief comes in waves, she said kindly. As time went by, I had to deal with other things. Tyler had made sure I'd be okay, financially. We had a house in the suburbs, an apartment in the city and a good amount of money in the bank. I could have left my job at the marketing firm, but the thought of staying home all day alone scared me. So I chose to work part-time, just enough to keep myself busy. The biggest surprise was how my relationship with my parents changed. Growing up, I always felt like they cared more about my younger sister, Quinn. They never missed her dance shows or school plays, while my good grades barely got a well done. But after Tyler died, something between us changed. I offered to help my parents by sending them $3,000 every month. I didn't even think twice. Our weekly dinners at their house had become something I looked forward to. Mom would make her famous pot roast, Dad would pour some wine and we'd talk about all kinds of things. For the first time in my life I felt like they were really paying attention to me. Brooke, tell us more about that new project you're working on, Dad would ask, actually showing interest in my job for once. The marketing campaign is going well, I'd reply, enjoying the feeling of being seen. My boss thinks it might bring in a few new clients. But everything changed the evening Quinn came home from one of her business trips. She walked through the door carrying designer shopping bags and wearing a brand new outfit that probably cost more than I made in a week. Quinn had been living in my parents' renovated basement for the past 2 years, claiming she needed time to build her brand. I hadn't seen much of her since Tyler's funeral, where she spent most of the time taking selfies. Quinn honey, come sit down and tell us all about your trip, Mom said, immediately getting up from her chair to fuss over her daughter. Harold, get Quinn something to drink. She looks tired, Mom said to Dad. Just like that, I became invisible again. It was like a switch had been flipped and suddenly I didn't exist. Their attention shifted completely to Quinn and her supposed success story. That familiar sting of being pushed aside hit me harder than I expected. I thought I'd outgrown that feeling, but it came rushing back like a slap in the face. So how did the brand collaboration meeting go? I asked, trying to stay part of the conversation. Did you sign the contract you were talking about? I said. Quinn's expression shifted, a flash of irritation crossing her face. That's still in negotiations, she said curtly, avoiding eye contact while scrolling through her phone. Not everything needs to be discussed at the dinner table, she added. Dad immediately jumped to her defense. Brooke, let Quinn share what she wants to share. Business dealings can be sensitive. I couldn't believe the double standard. When Tyler and I were trying to start a family, they peppered me with questions about every doctor's appointment, every treatment option, every detail of our struggles. But with Quinn, they respected her privacy without question. A few weeks later, during another family dinner, I tried again. Quinn, I've been thinking about your Instagram strategy. With my marketing background, maybe I could help you grow your follower count more effectively, I offered. Quinn waved her hand dismissively, that familiar smirk spreading across her face. Thanks, but I've got everything under control, she said with fake confidence. My follower engagement is through the roof. Brands are practically throwing money at me. I should have recognized that look. I'd seen it countless times before when Quinn was spinning her latest fantasy. There was the online boutique that folded after 1 month, the life coaching certification she never completed, and that disastrous cryptocurrency investment that nearly got her evicted. "Trust me," she said, adjusting the designer bag she'd placed prominently on the counter. "This time I've figured out the formula for success. Everything's about to change for me," she said. Dad beamed at her like she'd just announced she'd won the lottery. "That's our Quinn," he said with pride. "She always lands on her feet, no matter what," he added. I chewed my meatloaf slowly, trying to swallow down the bitter taste of being second choice once again. Some patterns never break, I thought, watching my parents hang on Quinn's every word like gospel. The text from Quinn came on a Friday afternoon. I was reviewing campaign analytics at my desk when my phone buzzed with her name on the screen. We rarely communicated directly, so seeing her message caught me off guard. "Hey, Brooke." The text read. "I'm doing a special Instagram live this Sunday to announce some big news. You should totally tune in. It's going to be amazing." I stared at the message, surprised by the sudden outreach. The last time Quinn had directly contacted me was months ago when she needed someone to drive her to pick up a business package. "What kind of announcement?" I texted back, genuinely curious. "You'll have to wait and see. But trust me, you won't want to miss this one. I'm tagging you so all my followers know we're family. Love you, sis." Something about her tone felt off, but I brushed the feeling aside. "Okay, I'll try to catch it," I replied, already wondering what kind of scheme she'd cooked up this time. Maybe this was her way of including me in her life for once. That Sunday evening, I was curled up on my couch with a cup of tea, getting ready to watch Quinn's Instagram live. I had to admit I was curious about what big announcement she had planned. At exactly 7 p.m., I opened Instagram and found her live stream. The viewer count was climbing: 847, 1,205, 1,847 people watching. Quinn appeared on screen in what looked like a hotel room, wearing a designer dress I'd never seen before. "Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight," she said, her voice unusually shaky. "I have something really important to share with all of you, something that's been weighing on my heart," she said. The comments were flying by. My stomach started to twist as I watched her fidget with her jewelry. "Some of you know that my family went through a tragedy earlier this year when we lost my brother-in-law, Tyler," she continued. "But there's something about Tyler that nobody knows. Something I've been keeping secret," she said. The viewer count jumped to over 2,000 people. I felt my hands start to shake as I gripped my phone tighter. "Tyler and we had a special relationship," Quinn said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "A relationship that went beyond just being siblings." My heart stopped. The comments exploded, people asking what she meant, others telling her to speak up. "Tyler was the love of my life," she said, looking directly into the camera. "We were planning to tell everyone after he divorced Brooke. We were going to start a new life together," she said. The room around me started spinning. I could see the comment count climbing. 3,500 viewers now, all watching this nightmare unfold. "And now," Quinn continued, pulling out her phone, "I think it's time everyone knew the truth." She held up her screen to the camera, showing photos I'd never seen before. Pictures of Tyler and Quinn at restaurants, in what looked like hotel rooms, embracing like lovers. "Tyler left everything to Brooke, but he never got the chance to change his will," Quinn said, tears streaming down her face now. "The money, the house, everything that should have been ours." The comments were going insane, people tagging friends, sharing the stream, using hashtags like #TruthAboutTyler and #JusticeForQuinn. Then I saw it. She had tagged me. My Instagram handle was right there on the screen for thousands of people to see. "Brooke Martin, if you're watching this, you know what Tyler really wanted," Quinn said, looking directly into the camera. "You know he never loved you the way he loved me. The right thing to do is give me what Tyler would have wanted me to have," she said. I felt like I was drowning. The notification sounds on my phone started going crazy as people began flooding my Instagram with comments and messages. Strangers were tagging me, sharing screenshots, turning my private grief into public entertainment. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "This is for you, Tyler," Quinn whispered to the camera. "I'm finally telling everyone the truth about us." I threw my phone across the room and it hit the wall with a crash. But I could still hear the sound of notifications coming from the broken device. 3,000 people had just watched my life get destroyed in real time. And now it was spreading across the internet like wildfire. The hours after Quinn's live stream passed in a haze of disbelief and rage. My mind kept replaying those images she'd shown, Tyler and Quinn together in ways that made my stomach turn. The photos at those restaurants must have been during his client dinners that ran late into the night. The hotel room shots were probably from his business trips that I never questioned. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Quinn's confession was spreading everywhere. People were screenshotting her live stream and sharing it with captions like, "Can you believe this drama?" and "This is why I don't trust anyone." But the worst part was the direct messages flooding my inbox. Quinn had sent me dozens of screenshots, each one a knife to my chest. Text conversations between her and Tyler that went back months. "I can't keep pretending with Brooke anymore. This marriage feels like a prison. When we're together, it's the only time I feel alive. After I figure out the divorce situation, we can finally be open about us. I love you in ways I never thought possible." Message after message appeared on my screen, each timestamp showing conversations that happened while I was sleeping next to him, while I was making him breakfast, while I was believing we were building a life together. The dates revealed their affair had been going on for 8 months before Tyler died. All that time, while I was researching fertility treatments and blaming myself for our struggles to have children, my husband and my sister were planning their future without me. That night I couldn't stop pacing through our townhouse. I touched Tyler's coffee mug still sitting on the kitchen counter, stared at our wedding photos on the mantle, wondering if any moment between us had been genuine. Had our entire marriage been built on lies? At 6 a.m. sharp, my phone rang. Dad's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering, my heart pounding. "Brooke, we need to talk about this situation," Dad said without any greeting, his voice stern and businesslike. "The sooner you work something out with Quinn, the easier this will be for everyone involved," he said. His cold, matter-of-fact tone sent fury shooting through my veins. "Easier for who exactly?" "For Quinn." "For you too?" "For the whole family," Mom chimed in. I realized they had me on speakerphone. "We don't want this getting any messier than it already has, sweetheart," Mom said. My throat felt like it was closing up. "How long have you known about them?" I asked. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, Mom's voice came through, shaky and guilty. "Tyler." Tyler told us about his feelings several months before the accident. He said he was confused, that he needed time to figure things out. Her words hit me like a physical blow. Several months. They had known for months and sat at dinner tables with me, accepted my financial help, let me grieve at Tyler's funeral while they carried the secret. They took my $3,000 every month knowing their son-in-law had betrayed me with their daughter. Liars, the word came out raw and broken. "All of you are liars," I said. I hung up and immediately blocked both their numbers. My hands were trembling as I opened my banking app, but I didn't hesitate. I canceled the automatic transfer I'd been sending them every month. If they needed money, they could ask their precious Quinn to support them with her imaginary influencer income. 3 weeks passed in a blur of ignored phone calls and unread messages piling up in my inbox. The internet had moved on to the next scandal, but my nightmare was just beginning. Then I received an email from Quinn that made my blood run cold. "Legal notice, demand for settlement" was the subject line. She claimed she would take me to court if I didn't voluntarily transfer half of Tyler's assets to her. She used legal language that sounded copied from some website, but the threat was crystal clear. I stared at the email for an hour, unable to process that this was really happening. I couldn't bring myself to respond. I couldn't even wrap my head around Tyler's betrayal, let alone how many people had watched it unfold online while I remained clueless. Work became unbearable. The whispers followed me down every hallway. Some colleagues shot me pitying glances, others couldn't hide their fascination with my personal drama. I could feel them discussing my life during their coffee breaks, dissecting Quinn's Instagram revelations like it was their favorite TV show. During a client presentation about social media crisis management, the irony became too much. I started crying right there in the conference room. My supervisor, Rebecca, quickly wrapped up the meeting and asked me to stay behind. "Brooke, honey," she said gently, closing the door behind the last client. "Take whatever time you need, with pay. Your position will be here when you're ready to come back," she said. I nodded through my tears, packed my laptop bag, and walked out that same afternoon. The following weeks blended together in a haze of isolation. I had groceries delivered to avoid seeing neighbors who might recognize me from Quinn's viral confession. I stopped answering my door, screening every call, and spent countless hours scrolling through old photos on my phone. I searched Tyler's face in every picture for signs I'd missed, clues that our love had been one-sided. Every anniversary dinner, every lazy Sunday morning, every "I love you" now felt contaminated by his lies. Had any moment between us been real? Then Quinn posted her next bombshell on Instagram. A hospital selfie with the caption, "Welcome to the world, baby Tyler Jr. Named after the greatest love of my life. #blessed mama #Tyler lives on." The photo showed her in a hospital bed, radiant and proud, holding a newborn baby. My parents stood beside her, beaming like the proudest grandparents in the world. The baby was wrapped in a soft blue blanket that looked expensive and carefully chosen. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and twisted my heart. I closed the app immediately, but the damage was done. She had named the child after Tyler, claiming him as her own even in death. A week later, a thick manila envelope appeared in my mailbox. My hands trembled as I tore it open, though I already knew what waited inside. The official court letterhead confirmed my worst fears. Quinn was suing me for half of Tyler's estate. Her legal filing claimed that baby Tyler Jr. deserved his father's inheritance. The documents were brutally specific. She wanted half the townhouse, half our savings, and access to Tyler's life insurance payout. I spent 4 sleepless days researching family law attorneys before settling on Mitchell Barnes. His online reviews praised his expertise in complex inheritance disputes and fraud cases. "Mrs. Morrison," he said, spreading Quinn's legal filing across his mahogany desk. His expression was grave as he reviewed the documents. "I need to be completely honest with you. Quinn has assembled what appears to be compelling evidence of a relationship with your husband," he said. "The text message screenshots, those photographs, plus witness statements from your in-laws create a strong foundation for her case." He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and looked directly at me. "In situations like this, courts often favor the interests of the child, especially when there's documentation of a romantic relationship," he explained. I felt like I was sinking into the leather chair as the reality hit me. That evening, my phone rang with an unknown local number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Is this Brooke Morrison?" asked a woman's voice I didn't recognize, though something about her tone seemed strangely familiar. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Claudia Morrison. I'm Tyler's aunt." The room started spinning around me. I gripped the kitchen counter to steady myself. "That's not possible," I whispered. "Tyler told me he didn't have any family left." "He said his parents died in a car accident when he was young," I said. "I'm afraid that was just another one of his lies," she said, her voice carrying years of sadness and disappointment. "Could we meet? There are things about Tyler you need to know, things that might help you fight this lawsuit," she said. We arranged to meet the next morning at a quiet diner on the outskirts of town. I arrived 30 minutes early, my nerves making it impossible to sit still. I ordered black coffee but couldn't manage more than a few sips since my hands were shaking too badly. When she walked through the door, I nearly gasped out loud. Claudia had Tyler's piercing blue eyes, his distinctive laugh lines, even the same confident way of carrying herself. The resemblance was unmistakable. "I was at Tyler's funeral," she said quietly as we slid into a corner booth away from other diners. I sat in the very back wearing sunglasses and a hat. "I wanted to speak with you, but Tyler and I hadn't spoken in over 5 years," she said. The memory suddenly clicked into place, the woman in dark clothing who slipped out during the final prayer. At the time, I was too consumed by grief to wonder who she was. "Why are you reaching out now?" I asked, trying to keep the suspicion out of my voice. After all of Tyler's deceptions, it was hard to trust anyone connected to him. Claudia reached into her worn leather purse and pulled out a sealed envelope that looked like it had been carried around for months. "Because I saw Quinn's Instagram video, and I know what she's trying to do to you," she said firmly. "Even with all of Tyler's faults, I won't let another woman be destroyed by his lies." Her hands shook slightly as she slid the envelope across the Formica table. I opened it carefully, my heart hammering against my ribs. Inside were medical records from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, dated 12 years ago, just 2 years before Tyler and I met. As I read the diagnosis, I felt all the blood drain from my face. Severe oligospermia with azoospermia. Patient informed of permanent sterility. No viable sperm detected. The medical terminology felt like physical blows. Tyler had undergone fertility testing when he was 25 years old. "He was devastated when he got those results," Claudia said softly. "It was one of the last real conversations we had before he cut me out of his life completely," she said. I sat there speechless, staring at the papers. All those years of fertility treatments, hormone injections, invasive procedures, and crushing disappointment. All those nights I cried myself to sleep thinking I was the reason we couldn't have children. Tyler had known the entire time that he was sterile, but he let me torture myself with guilt and false hope. When the court date finally arrived, the courtroom was packed with spectators. Quinn sat in the front row, cradling baby Tyler Jr. like a prop in her performance. My parents flanked her on either side, their faces set with determination and misplaced pride. She had dressed for maximum sympathy, a modest black dress, minimal makeup, and an expression of practiced sorrow. When Quinn took the witness stand, she delivered her testimony like a seasoned actress. Crocodile tears gathered in her eyes as she spoke about her deep, forbidden love for Tyler. "All I want is what's fair for my son," she said, her voice trembling with calculated emotion. "Tyler Jr. deserves his father's legacy, the inheritance that should have been ours," she said. Mitchell Barnes remained perfectly calm throughout her entire performance. When she finished, he stood up with quiet confidence. "Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that completely invalidates Ms. Quinn Morrison's claims." He approached the bench and handed the judge Claudia's manila envelope. The judge examined the medical records with an impassive expression. Quinn's attorney immediately objected, arguing about the authenticity and relevance of decade-old documents. That's when Quinn's composure finally shattered. "Those papers are completely fake," she screamed, clutching the baby so tightly he started to cry. "She's making this up to steal my baby's inheritance," she yelled. But Mitchell didn't raise his voice or lose his cool. "Your Honor," he said steadily, "these medical records prove that Tyler Morrison was medically incapable of fathering children. We respectfully request a DNA test to establish paternity." Quinn's face lit up with what she thought was victory. "That's impossible to do," she said smugly. "Tyler was cremated. There's no way to test him now." "Actually," Mitchell replied, turning toward the gallery, "I'd like the court to meet Claudia Morrison, Tyler's paternal aunt." Claudia rose from her seat in the back row, and you could hear the collective intake of breath throughout the courtroom. Even from where I sat, I could see Quinn's confident expression melt into panic. "I'm prepared to provide DNA samples," Claudia announced clearly, "to determine whether this child is my nephew's biological son." The judge nodded approvingly. "DNA testing is hereby ordered. Court will reconvene when results are available." Quinn looked like she might collapse right there in the witness box. Her skin turned ashen and she swayed dangerously. Dad rushed forward to steady her while shooting me a look filled with pure hatred. But for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope burning in my chest. The courtroom fell into absolute silence as the judge opened the sealed envelope containing the DNA results. Quinn sat rigid in her chair, baby Tyler Jr. sleeping peacefully in her arms, completely unaware that his future hung in the balance. "The test results conclusively demonstrate," the judge announced in a clear, authoritative voice, "that there is no genetic relationship between this child and Ms. Claudia Morrison. Therefore, Tyler Morrison cannot be the biological father of this infant." The entire room erupted in gasps and whispered exclamations. Quinn's carefully constructed facade crumbled completely as tears of humiliation streamed down her cheeks, taking her mascara with them. "Ms. Quinn Morrison," the judge said sternly, "would you care to explain why you committed perjury in my courtroom?" Quinn held the baby closer, her voice barely audible. "I was involved with multiple men around that time. When Tyler died, I thought no one would ever be able to prove anything different. He had money and I was desperate," she said. "So you attempted to defraud your sister?" the judge asked sharply. "You enlisted your parents as accomplices in this elaborate deception?" the judge asked further. "I just wanted my baby to have opportunities," Quinn whispered, but her pathetic justification fell flat. Even my parents looked horrified as they finally grasped the full extent of their daughter's lies. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. This court finds in favor of the defendant, Brooke Morrison. All claims made by Quinn Morrison against the estate are permanently dismissed. "Ms. Morrison, you should consider yourself fortunate that Mrs. Morrison hasn't pursued criminal fraud charges against you." Outside the courthouse steps, my parents approached me with hesitant steps. Mom's eyes were red from crying, and Dad looked like he'd aged a decade in just a few hours. "Brooke, sweetheart," Mom said, reaching tentatively for my hand. "We had no idea Quinn was lying about everything. We want to make this right somehow. Things have been really difficult since you stopped the monthly support," she said. I raised my hand to cut her off before she could continue. Just don't say another word." Right there on the courthouse steps, I pulled out my phone and permanently blocked both their numbers. Then I walked away without a single backward glance. Claudia was waiting beside my car in the parking garage. "How are you holding up?" she asked with genuine concern. To my own surprise, I actually laughed. "You know what? I think I'm going to be okay. Better than okay, actually." I took a deep breath of the underground garage air that somehow felt fresher than it had in months. "I've been thinking about Tyler's home office space. I never use it anymore, too many complicated memories. Would you maybe be interested in turning it into a guest room when you visit?" I asked. Her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "Brooke, I couldn't possibly accept," she said. "Please," I said with newfound strength in my voice. "You gave me back my life with those medical records. Let me give you a place in mine," I said. A week later, I handed her a spare house key. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I never thought I'd have a niece," she whispered through her tears. That was 4 months ago. My parents and Quinn still try to reach me through distant relatives and mutual friends, but I've systematically cut all those connections. Quinn even mailed me a handwritten letter claiming she was sorry, that she'd changed and desperately needed help with baby Tyler Jr. I dropped it directly into the shredder without breaking the seal. Instead, my life now revolves around weekly dinners with Claudia. We're gradually building a relationship, sharing memories about Tyler, the genuine moments alongside the painful truths. She's helping me understand that even though Tyler wasn't the man I thought I married, that doesn't automatically erase every happy moment we created together. Yesterday, I finally tackled the last boxes of Tyler's belongings that had been haunting our bedroom closet. Claudia came over to help me sort through everything, donating his clothes to charity and carefully packing his important documents for storage. While we worked, she shared stories about Tyler as a young boy, before the lies and deception took root. Those glimpses of his childhood innocence somehow made the healing process easier. It helped me believe that somewhere inside the man who betrayed me, a good person had once existed. I'm nowhere near ready to think about dating again, but I've started actually living instead of just surviving. I returned to work full-time at the digital agency, joined a weekend hiking group, and I'm actively planning my first solo vacation to Costa Rica. Sometimes when I catch my reflection in unexpected places, I'm startled by the strength I see in my own eyes. Life has this strange way of completely upending your expectations. I lost the family I thought would always be there, but I discovered a new one I never saw coming. This isn't the life I carefully planned out, but maybe it's exactly the life I was always meant to live.